Welcome, everybody. We are live, Ben. We are getting started now. Curate your PD and power up your professional portfolio. I see so many people already in the chat, and I have two incredible people with me today sharing about portfolios and curation of PD. So I'm not even going to I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, and then we're going to be looking in the chat and kind of doing some shout outs because I see a lot of people here I know to support you guys. So we'll just start with Katie.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie. I'm a STEM coach in Virginia, in Prince William County Schools. And before that, I was a tech coach, and I'm a Wakelet ambassador, got my shirt on today, and trainer. And I just love the power of portfolios, and I hope to share with you why today. And of course, I can't be on a Wakelet webinar without just saying I'm team control here. And so looking forward to seeing the whole Wakelet team at ISTE.
Yes.
While Katie's team control, I'm team chaos. I'm Renee Dawson from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an ed tech specialist at a middle school here in Atlanta. I'm also Verizon Innovative Learning Schools coach, and I am the part-time community manager for Almanac AI. So if you aren't familiar with them, check us out. I'm so excited to share with you how I've leveraged my professional portfolio to get where I want to be and to hopefully get to my next steps in my career, and share with you how to create your own to be ready for those moves that you plan to make or don't always plan to make.
I'm so excited to be here with the two of you today. And just during your intros, I was getting chills because I am also seeing the excitement in the chat. So I want the two of you to kind of take a minute and look at some of those in the chat who are saying hello. I see Alex Isaacs. I do have to shout Alex out, and how ironic that we've just put Alex up on the screen. Alex is one of our Wakelet certified trainers, and he has recently been updating his portfolio. I'm sure a lot of people have been seeing that tweet that he shared out. Who else do we see? Renee, do you see anybody?
Yeah, I see my friend Latoya. That's like one of my big ex-friends, my big Twitter ex-friends. We jump on a lot of the same webinars. She's one of the EduGuardians. If you're not at a hashtag EduGuardian, you got to become one. That's like the most powerful group on Twitter right now.
Wow. Okay.
So please,
Latoya, we're glad you're here. That's really cool. When you said ex-friend, though, let me just be honest. I was thinking that you meant you weren't friends anymore.
Well, like ex, like Twitter ex. I don't know how to say it right now anymore.
I know. No, nobody does, Renee. Katie, do you see anybody familiar out there?
I do. I see a fellow ISTE certified educator, Brandy Miller, and she's awesome. And I also see Lois, and she's great too. Another Wakelet ambassador. So
absolutely. There's so many in the chat. Ryan is there. So if you guys have any questions, Ryan McGinnis, my partner in crime at Wakelet, he is going to be hanging out with you. I see Renee Moore, and then Sandy. Shout out to Sandy. Lydia, I see you. There's so many people here.
So many people.
There is. And this is exciting because I always say this, but I love bringing everybody together and just being a part of this. So we're actually going to let Renee get started, but here is what I want you to put in the chat. So there's a couple of things that I want you to put in the chat, and you've already been answering, a lot of you, but Katie and Renee talked about being team control and team chaos. And so if you're unfamiliar with what that means, I want to give you a little backstory on that. At ISTE last year, we did this little game with the bucket hats beside me right here. So one side of the hat is team chaos and one side is team control. And it really is thinking through, how do your Chrome tabs look? Well, if you're like Renee and I, they are emotional support tabs, and we've got hundreds of them. And if you take them away, we panic. Or you might be like Katie, team control. We know that we need team controllers in our lives. We understand that because they keep us on track. And Katie probably doesn't have 100 tabs open. She's very meticulous in her organization. Am I right? And I bet if we took a peek into Katie's Wakelet account, her account would be really organized with header images on all of them and titles on all of them. And I don't know, Renee, but if you took a peek in my Wakelet account, it's not going to look like that.
Yeah, mine doesn't look like that at all.
So it was just a fun game. Teachers are different, and I'm going to throw out my phrase that I always throw out, which is there is a way, not the way. But I will also say this, it's all about balance. And so the strengths that Renee has that maybe Katie doesn't have, Katie really comes in and helps with that. So I think it's really important when we're looking at our teams and then also assessing ourselves, right? It's very important. We're going to talk about that, doing self-assessment when you're putting together your PD or your portfolio. So I want you to put in the chat what you are, team chaos or team control. And I also want you to answer a question in the chat. I want to know if you have ever put together a portfolio, because I know a lot of people are aware of them and a lot of people celebrate them when other people do them, right? We see them and we're like, that's magnificent. But I want to know if you've actually put one together. And if you have, tell us a struggle that you had with it. And then also tell us something that you learned from that experience. And it doesn't have to be a completely completed portfolio, because your portfolio will never be complete, right? All right, so we're gonna let Renee pull up her screen. So we're gonna get Renee up here while you guys are answering those questions, because we want this to be engaging. And any questions that you have for Renee or Katie or myself, you just let me know. Okay, Renee, I'm not seeing your screen share. There it is. We got it. We're here. Okay. All right.
All right, hey guys, so we're going to talk about how you can wake up your resume with Wakelet today. I have a digital portfolio or a digital resume that I'm going to share with you, and I also have some other resources that will be available at the end today. Whoops, wrong button. Sorry about that. All right, so what is a digital resume? Your digital resume is a collection of accolades, features, and really anything else that you want to add to highlight your career, what you do, what your strengths are, anything that you want a future employer or somebody to see as you are applying for a job, or even just to show off maybe as you're applying to present at a conference. It allows you to showcase a great deal of content that won't fit on an application or a resume or those conference proposals, but you can still show all of your information to anybody that you want to share it with, potential employers, conference panels, conference audiences, and they can explore your whole experience and all of the things, the wonderful things that you do digitally on your portfolio. So why did I choose Wakelet for mine? Curated content. There's multiple upload formats, so pretty much anything I want to add to Wakelet, I can add. It's easy to share, and I can update it really easily and really, really quickly as needed, because things are constantly changing. I'm constantly doing things. Like after today, I'm going to add this webinar underneath my webinars tab, and I can update it as often as I want, change things around, make it look more modern, change the colors if I want. Anything that I want to do with it, I can do to make it match what I'm trying to present myself as to either an employer or a conference committee. Anything I want, I can update it to match. I've added different sections to mine. So I've divided mine into different sections about Renee, features, accolades, webinars, conferences, podcasts, and articles. So that way, as people scroll through, they'll see the different things that I do, and it's like neatly organized in my chaotic way of just having the little headers right there that I made in Canva. And yes, I have the link for these headers in Canva if you want them. There's the link for the headers, and you'll get a link to the slideshow at the end as well, or probably right now in the chat. You just download each header as a GIF or GIF, depending on which team you're on for that. Then upload it to your Wakelet collection, and then add content under each header. It's as easy as that. So let's check out my portfolio. Did it come up right, Tisha?
Yes, we can see it. Yep. Perfect. Your resume and CV. Mm-hmm.
Yep, perfect. So here is the live look at my resume and CV. So I have a little intro video I need to update. So now that I see that, my contact information, My Twitter X account is linked. My LinkedIn is right there as well. So is my YouTube channel. If you want to see some really bad rap parodies, I'd recommend you check out my YouTube channel. I did those for my students, and now they're out there for everybody to see. A little about me section, some features, some things I was featured in. It goes on and on and on forever, I feel like. But just different things that I have on here, from things I've done, different webinars, and it just can keep going. And, Tisha gave me a really good idea. I might spend some time this summer revamping it and making it into columns now that I have so many things. Because she was telling me that she had helped a teacher come up with some columns for her portfolio. So I might have to redo this, Tisha, and steal your idea for columns.
I think that would be a perfect idea. And speaking of that, in the resources, you will get the resources, you will get a certificate at the very end. So everything that Renee's showing you, you will get that. And we're going to go over, Ruth is asking a question about columns. So we're going to talk about that. I do have a template for you. I wasn't going to come to a webinar and not give you a couple of resources. So don't worry, we're going to give you all of that. Renee, I think that would be really cool. And I want to say this. I love two things that you said. You're already sparking debates on the GIF or the GIF. I'm sure people are going to talk about that. And then I love that you said that in your chaotic way. And that's what I really want to hit on, because, Katie started off saying that she was team control. And I think there is a myth. So correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, but I think there's a myth when people, teachers especially, think, well, I'm going to put together a portfolio. And in their heads, they're thinking that everything has to be perfect and everything has to be orderly. And I love that you hit on the fact that it is chaotic. Like you were live saying, oh, look, there's something I need to update that I haven't yet. Right. So I love that you hit on that. There are lots of comments in the chat, so I'm not even going to pull those up yet. We will come back to them, but I want you to continue and kind of talk about that chaos as you're putting things together, because Katie and I were raving about all of your graphics. I never would have guessed that you were team chaos, honestly. So I want you to kind of keep talking about that for the teachers who haven't started their portfolio.
Well, they call me the coordinator of chaos at work. So while I'm chaotic, it's a very organized chaos and maybe sometimes controlled chaos, but I definitely coordinate it well at work. Anytime things get fly off the handle, I'm the one that kind of smooths everything out. So I think having that chaotic mindset kind of helps with those things. But as far as my portfolio, I've just kind of been dropping things and adding things. And I don't think I've realized how big it's gotten over the years, because I've had so many wonderful opportunities from people like Wakelet and others. So I have to go back in and maybe re-strategize that chaos a little bit and hone it down into something more organized so that I feel better about presenting it to the world. Because my chaos is one thing, but making sure that everybody doesn't see that I'm totally chaotic all the time, that's another thing. So here's just a template, a Wakelet template with a bunch of resources on it, from my slide deck to my portfolio to the headers. So this will be available for you also. Please use it, make a copy of the headers as you see fit. I love the headers because they have some motion to them. They're a little glittery and sparkly, but you can always change all of that in Canva, of course, as you know, and then just upload your header. Thank you. Connect with me. I'm on X all the time. I'm on Wakelet, and I'm on LinkedIn, and this will all be shared with you from Tisha.
You can call me Tish. You can call me Tisha.
Tish.
I am going to share all of this. You're right. I'm actually going through the resources just to make sure. I have put the bit.ly link to Renee's Canva header template in the chat, but you are also going to get that in those resources. And I do want to hit on this because there is a conversation in the chat right now as we're segueing and switching over to Katie. The debate is about columns. You have sparked this discussion, Renee. You probably haven't even seen it. Ruth asked, is there pros and cons to columns? Alex is coming into the chat talking about his experience. And what I want to say about this is, again, I'm going to go back to this a lot of times. You're going to be tired of me saying this, but there's a way, not the way. So I'm going to give Alex as an example, okay? And Alex, I'm going to throw you on the spot. You're a Wakelet certified trainer. I know that you can take it. I've done it multiple times. Alex has a lot of content to curate. If you have followed Alex, if you have followed his journey, he has a lot of things he wants to share. And so he's made that decision to share all of these things. And for Alex, a column layout is not going to work because he has so much that he wants to highlight. So for Alex, he's going to focus on his Wakelet portfolio, and he's going to build collections now, right, in categories so that it is an encompassed experience, if you will. For Alex, that's going to work. But I have worked and mentored and coached teachers that a profile is too overwhelming for them. It is too much for them to think, oh, I have to not only create all of these collections and a profile, and I've got to get items and artifacts in there. So for those teachers, I always recommend one collection. Just start with one collection and call that your portfolio. My students have done that, but the teachers are less overwhelmed, especially if they're not Alex Isaacs, right? I mean, truthfully, Katie's going to show you some examples. You're going to see the differences here. So the pros are going to be, for columns, is that you can put everything in there and it's all in one spot, and you can send that out if you're applying for jobs or you want to put it on your LinkedIn. But if you end up, like Renee said, you said something, Renee, that it didn't start off as much as it did. It just kept growing. And that's what happens. You're going to start off with that single collection, and there's going to be a day that you're going to say, oh, this isn't enough. Now I need more collections. And now I need to focus on that profile, which is why I'm always going to tell you it's a process, it's a journey, and it never ends. And with that, we're going to let Katie share her screen. And do you want to talk about columns at all, Katie?
I'll get there. I'll get to columns. I'll get to design
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
But first, I'm going to start by talking about why are we making these portfolios? I think this is a really good time of year to talk about this. There are a lot of teachers looking to move into roles in leadership, maybe move into coaching roles, maybe even go into the ed tech side of K-12 education. And so it's a really good time for you to think about your portfolio and think about how you're marketing yourself. Because that's essentially what your portfolio is. It's a marketing tool to get that job that you want. So I like to say, share your story, get that job. Every educator has a story, and it's up to you to share it in your portfolio. I would love in the chat if anyone wants to share as I'm going along some things that come to mind with what I say. And so I'll ask some prompting questions along the way. But let's get to some of my tips. The first one is going to be that I'm a teacher, okay? I'm not teaching a lesson without putting that objective on the board. So I'm going to start with our ISTE educator standards. So creating a portfolio is completely in line with our standards, particularly 2.1A, which is setting professional goals, because your portfolio is going to communicate those goals to others, as well as communicate your accomplishment of those goals. So when you're thinking, everything can always be aligned to a standard, just like we do in the classroom, your work in making a portfolio is also aligned to our educator standards, our ISTE standards that we love so much. All right, going on. Why are we portfolioing? Because we're going to show our growth. So there's two real formats of portfolios, the positivist, which is like an end product, and our constructivist portfolios, which is what I love. So in our constructivist view of a portfolio, it's growth producing, it's never ending, it's always adding to, we're never ending, it's never a final product. So just think of that as your portfolio. It's something that's going to grow with you as you grow as an educator, as a professional. Portfolio as a verb, totally. Yes. All right. So when we're thinking of how to set up our portfolios, I love to think about some of our educational frameworks that come to mind, especially if you're going for specific roles. So if you're looking for a tech coaching role, you might want to set up your portfolio around the ISTE coaching standards. If you're going for a leadership role, like a principalship role, you might want to set yours up for those professional standards of educational leadership that are around. If you're going for another ed tech leadership type role, you might want to use other ISTE standards, our Future Ready standards, or maybe if you're going for a literacy coach role, you want to use your district's profile of a graduate. The point is, finding a framework that is meaningful for the role that you want to move into is going to help you make a meaningful portfolio. It's going to give you some guidance of the things that should be in there and really communicate that you understand the standards of that role and that profession. So I totally recommend you using a framework, whichever one is like the most meaningful for that job that you want to get. So if any of you guys are looking for jobs right now in the chat, fill in what of those educational frameworks might be the most useful for you. All right, tools and design. So I'm team control, and I think that the tools and the design we put into our portfolios is a really important form of communication. Visual design communication says a lot about our personalities and also about highlighting the most important things, the way we structure a website or structure a Wakelet. So I want you to make sure that your professional portfolio looks professional and that it's sharing also your personality. So it doesn't mean it has to be boring, but it just has to match who you are. And so some tips that I share with people when having them think about making portfolios is to make a style board. So this is something that designers do whenever they're starting maybe a marketing campaign or promotion. They think about what are the colors, the graphics, and the fonts that are going to go with this product, this marketing product or a campaign. And so for you, it's your portfolio. We both all love Canva. We love Adobe Express, and those tools are great for making a style board. So I'm going to share a style board of mine. This is an example. So I have a dark color, I have light colors, I have bright colors and more muted colors. Even that background color, that kind of khaki is one of the colors. And then I kind of have some representative graphics that I might use and fonts. I don't recommend any more than 2 fonts. Also remember and keep in mind readability, because even our adult colleagues may have readability needs. And so I like to keep, for me personally, clean fonts to help really, no matter what, my message is going to come across because I'm using a very readable font so that even adults that may have reading difficulties or vision difficulties can see it. So I recommend making a style board like this. I made this one with Adobe Express, but you can make it with all kinds of graphic tools. And I recommend making a few of them and shopping them out to your friends and getting their opinions of like what styles look best, which one looks the most professional, maybe for the role you're going for. If you're going for a more creative role, you have a lot more levity than if you're going necessarily for a district leadership role. So make some style boards, get some opinions, and see what your friends and your colleagues say about them. And then the most important thing of all of this is to curate your artifacts. Your artifacts, your artifacts. We all have them in our OneDrives, in our Google Drives, all those files, all those Canva creations, all those Express creations, all those YouTube videos, webinars, whatever you've been on, those are your artifacts to curate. And so I want to share some examples of things that I've curated, as well as some other things from our Wakelet community that I think are really good examples of how to use Wakelet as a professional portfolio. So the first thing that I'm going to share is just my regular Wakelet profile. And so on here, I use it in a way, it is a portfolio. It's a collection of all of the work that I have made and shared in Wakelet. So right now, the things at the top of the portfolio are my newest content. I've been making these STEM journals in Book Creator and sharing those out. So I put that at the top because it's my latest work. And as I go down, there is more and more content that I've created. But I've also have other profiles in my Wakelet spaces, I should say. And they are for very specific portfolios that I've created. So the first one is my ISTE certification portfolio. So I was able to share the space URL to my ISTE portfolio, and everything from my ISTE portfolio is on this one page. So I have it divided by the standards. It just happened to work out that my artifacts were organized that way. But you can even see in these cover images, I used, because I'm team control, I used the colors from the ISTE logo to make my images so that they go with the audience, obviously the ISTE evaluators, who would be looking at my portfolio. Then for another portfolio, I did the Microsoft Certified Coaching Program. You can see that I made some nice graphics that highlighted the standards that each artifact was exemplifying. And so think about how powerful that graphic at the top can be, especially if you're sharing a whole space like this, because that's going to draw people in. Now let's look at some other community members' pages that I found and thought were really great. The first one is Jennifer's, and she has the one pager. So one collection of all of her things. And so she has the column format, and I think this is really great for her. And she has them really well labeled. So you know what you're getting into if you're reviewing this for the first time. As you know, I can see it's her resume, her blog, podcasts, and things she's been on, presentations. It's all really clearly outlined here. And so if I'm someone that's coming to visit it, because you want to think about your user, your audience when you're creating a portfolio, am I going to find the information quickly that I, as someone who might be hiring or looking for speakers or looking for someone to come on my podcast, am I going to find the information that I need to find? And hers is really clearly labeled and nicely organized. So this is where a little bit of team control can come into handy, is like that communication of the most important stuff. Then we have two other really great ones who are more implementing that whole portfolio, whole space aesthetic. And that's Alex. We talked about him earlier. So you can scroll down. You can see, again, all of his covers kind of matching. They all have the same look. Like they are a bigger collection. They're a collection of collections, we should say, right? So we can see that they are all connected and they're all a part of his story, all a part of his ed tech specialist. I can see right here before I even click in what his current role is. And I can see the things he's proud of, the badges, the video content, the blogs. He's been on some podcasts. Before I even get into one of his collections, I know a lot of information about Alex. And so think again of the power of those cover images and how you can utilize those to direct people to getting the information that they want to get. And then we have Lois's page, another great space of collections. And she has, used the dividers really well into helping people define what is in each space. And I think this is just another really great example of taking all of the work that she's done, all of these professional development experiences she's given her teachers or given to any other educators, and put them in a very organized space where I can come in and I can see what she's all about. I can tell she loves digital citizenship and the global SDG goals. I can see what district she works for even, and things that she's made specifically for them and that audience. So I think this is another really great collection of collections. And that's about it. Tisha, back to you.
Well, you know what? There's so much here. I have so many things I want to say. First of all, that was great at talking about, the why and the how, because, I love that we started with Renee, because you kind of showed us everything. You gave us the headers, the ideas, and then Katie came in and said, here's kind of the steps you want to take. Here are a couple of examples. There is a lot more going on in the chat, I think, than has ever gone on in the chat in the history of webinars that I've actually hosted. I'm not even going to lie to you. So Ruth is asking, and Ruth, I don't know, I just keep seeing your comments. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this up. She asked if the dividers are part of the paid membership. You should be able to go into your profile. So you know what, Ruth, I had not planned to do this at all, but because there's so much conversation around this, Katie and Renee, are you okay if I kind of showcase a couple of things in that profile? And you guys, please don't mute yourselves, because I want you to kind of, help guide me. I'm trying to do two things at once, like always. I'm the captain of Team Chaos, truly, if I didn't say that earlier. Okay, so you guys can see my screen here. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see that this is actually going to be the resources that I'm going to send out to you. And this is a collection of all the resources that Renee and Katie have already gone through, with a couple of tips and things that I've added in there. But what I want to do is I actually want to go to my profile, because I want to show you how to kind of set some of this up that Renee and Katie have shown you. So you're going to go into your Wakelet account and go to that public profile. And when that loads, So I'm going to use this little button here to move that out of the way. Now, to Katie's point, I haven't even scrolled down to anything, but you 1,000% know what my story is. I haven't even given you a sentence, but you know what my story is, and you know what I'm about just right there. Now, I'll tell you, I haven't updated this in years because the truth of the matter is I feel like this is still my story. I've updated the description here. Okay, so I'm in my profile. And remember, this is going to be different than Jennifer's example that Katie showed you. This is the Alex example because I had so much content. I had to make it look better because that one collection just was not doing it. But to answer Ruth's question right here, you can edit your profile. So just want to show you that editing button. And this is where you can do what Renee was talking about. You can update your header images. You can change your profile picture. You can change your username if you want. And this is also where you're going to change your name and bio and add all of your links. So I want to make sure that Ruth knows where that part is. And then when I scroll down, you'll now see, Ruth, in my profile, I can add a new section. And so those dividers that Katie was showing you, it's called add a new section. And my sections are different than anything that you've already seen. But again, to Katie's point, you need to transform your digital portfolio and let it grow with you. So when I was a teacher, my sections were named something different because it was going to my students and my parents. Now my collections and my profile is going to you, all of you out there. So I have a little connect section here because I like to store all of my media. So webinars that I do and podcasts. I also have some articles that I've written. So I keep those together, and everywhere that you can connect with me is right here. Then I've recently added some really crazy things because I am the captain of Team Chaos. This doesn't match. I'm so sorry, Katie. I probably should have made it match, but in the moment, this is what I went with, right?
It's okay because it's your personality.
Exactly.
If it was a little chaos, it wouldn't be.
You're exactly right. And I'm going to hit on that because that is really, so you see, I have a pick my brain. Because I have people ask me questions all the time, and a lot of times I can't get to it. So you can actually fill out a spreadsheet form and ask me a question and I will respond. But then I have something called the digital garden. It has nothing to do with anything. It doesn't have anything to do with Wakelet. If you go in this digital garden, you're actually going to see part of my chaotic brain, and I just needed a place to store something, right? So this is just an example of kind of how my brain works. But now we're getting into digital portfolios, right? So this is what I'm asked about all the time. And I'm going to give you this example. This is what we were talking about. So columns. And this would be an example that Jennifer had, right? So it's very, very basic. It's a philosophy of learning. It's your career summary with your resume, if you wish, with teaching samples, student work samples, professional achievements, maybe social connections. But the idea here is that you are in charge of what people are seeing. Okay. You get to decide, Ruth, what those dividers are. And you should have access to those dividers no matter what. You should have access to them today. So my question, Katie, you do have these sections on your portfolio profile, right?
Yeah, I do. And I also like putting emojis in the little.
Yes,
headers.
I have done that as well. I do that with students a lot. And you know what I love about that, Katie? It's because I talk about this a lot, accessibility and visual cues. And for me, even, it helps me. If I can color coordinate or I can have emojis go with certain words or certain topics, that helps. Renee, do you use this section idea as well?
You don't even want to look at mine. It's complete chaos, but I'm going to go and organize it soon because now I'm like really motivated to organize it. So I'm going to like go home this weekend and I'll be up till like 2 a.m. on Saturday, like organizing my Wakelet because now I'm like jazzed to do it. But no, mine is just like all of my Wakelets like together.
Yeah, no.
At one point I started to organize them and then I just started making so many Wakelets that they're just all over the place. But I'm going to get it together. I'm going to get this chaos under control.
Absolutely.
You can just be you. It's okay.
I was going to say, now listen, we're not trying to convince you, Renee, to do that that because Wyatt's
No, I
Wyatt's
want to. I'm
portfolio.
like motivated now.
Do you
But,
see Wyatt? Wyatt doesn't have these. And I get asked a lot about how Wyatt created his portfolio. It's because he didn't use those sections. That's how he made it look that way. He has no sections. Someone, Latoya is asking, how many columns do you recommend? Latoya, let me just be honest. You could go crazy with columns. I don't recommend more than like 5 to 7. It's a lot because it ends up growing. So you just kind of have to, if you're overwhelmed with it, you have to remember, like Katie said, your audience, they're going to be overwhelmed with that as well. So that's usually the point where you would say, oh, I need this entire profile instead of just a single collection. Go ahead.
Carrie had a question in the chat as well while you were talking that I wanted to address just because it's something that I try to stay on top of. She asked how often you would recommend updating your portfolio, yearly, monthly. I kind of do it as things occur, but also monthly. Obviously,
Yes.
I need to go back and redo my video because it's from 2022 and I had pink hair then. But so it just kind of depends on you. If you're more control, you might do it monthly, like every day on the dot. If you're more chaotic, you might do it as you remember things.
Yes.
As things pop up. So it just kind of depends on your personality. I tend to get really heavy on it. Like in the spring when I'm updating my resume, I tend to think, oh, I need to add all these things to my portfolio also. So it just really depends on you.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. Katie, how often do you update your portfolio?
Well, obviously, Renee has been looking at my calendar and she knows that I have it every month on a date and it's blocked in.
Wow, that is team control. That's the difference. You have it set, and I think that is a great idea. And especially for Team Chaos members like Renee and I, we probably need to just set a calendar day. I will tell you that I have created a habit. So after, for example, this webinar, I may go add this webinar to my media collection. If I feel like I'm refreshing a social media platform with the profile picture and maybe a description, that usually indicates for me, oh, I should probably go have a look at my Wakelet profile and portfolio. Now, I put together this branding guide and it really matches a lot of what Katie has already told you. But we've said this multiple times and we've kind of showed you examples. It needs to be your authenticity. You need to showcase your style, passion, and educator story and your unique qualities, because as teachers, you are not exactly the same as a teacher next door to you. You're not doing the same PD. You're not doing the same learning. Your personality traits are different. And that's what makes it so great, is because you're setting yourself apart. It isn't just the basic Microsoft Word resume, right?
Yep.
Then you're focusing on expertise. Establish what your expertise is and become a thought leader in that skill set. So it's really interesting. I do a little of coaching on the side of this because a lot of times people aren't sure what their expertise is, but here's how you know what that's going to be. The questions that people are asking you most often is going to be your expertise. So for Katie, I already know this. People probably ask you about accessibility often. Am I right?
Oh, for sure. Yes.
So that would be one of your levels of expertise. I get asked pretty often about portfolios and how to implement student leadership programs. Or I get asked about public speaking, like how did I practice? How did I get into it? What are the habits that I have? Then you want to think about connection. So if you looked at all of the examples we've shown, there is a sense of relatability. I know what was happening with all of the examples because all of you in the chat were responding. You were responding to what you were seeing. And when you become relatable and you share that story and you share it on social channels or on webinars, you start realizing, just like your students, this is for a much bigger audience. So I need to set a time that I'm going to make sure everything is consistent. And that's the next thought here. Build consistency with branding and colors and logos and fonts and your social presence and your overall message. So Katie actually put together the style board. I've done that for myself in Canva. I actually have multiple branding style boards in there to make sure that I'm always consistent with my fonts and colors depending on what I'm
I do
posting.
too. I thought I was the only one that did that. I have my own personal brands in there.
Yes.
And I have them, but I tend to, because my personality is so loud, I tend to like lean more towards the bright colors and like the fonts, because I feel like it just fits me better. And once you get to know me in an interview or like in a podcast or something, and you see how loud I really am,
it matches
like,
your personality.
Definitely goes with her.
But don't you think that like it just is an expectation now? When Alex, for example, posts something on Twitter, I really already know it's Alex because I know his style. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And like Katie, when she posts something, I know what to expect from her style. So I think that's what we're really getting at. And so sometimes you just have to sit down and go, you're doing self-assessment. What is my style? What colors do I love? What fonts can I look at every day? What do I want my social media to look like consistently? And then we've already, go ahead.
I'll add, it's a life hack.
Oh,
Once you establish those colors and the fonts, and you don't have to pick them every time you're going to make something, it's like Steve Jobs wearing a turtleneck every day or Mark Zuckerberg wearing a hoodie. You have eliminated a choice from all the choices you make every day from your flow, and it just makes things a lot easier.
The thing is, Katie, you're absolutely right about that. And I used to think that was a crazy idea, but the less decisions you have to make means the more time you can spend on the things that matter. So your message, right? What are you sharing? This is actually, I had this in Canva. I was really focusing on Wakelet colors here, but you'll notice some of the things that you see from me, and I'm just consistent with this. I'm always going to give you the research. I didn't come up with this on my own. I curated it from several different research articles and put those in there so that you can extend your knowledge if you want. That's just kind of the Tisha way. Self-assess often. So you could do it once a week, once a month. I think we're all different. And then evaluate your strengths and weaknesses, right? I am not going to go out and really talk about accessibility like Katie. I know that's not my lane. I know that my lane is in this one niche. I also know that my strengths are public speaking and my strengths are not graphic design. I know that. So here's what I want to say. This is why it's so important for all of you in the chat to find a friend today. Find someone that you can go to and say, I've created this graphic, but I know it doesn't look great, or I've created this header for my profile. Tell me what to fix. You need trusted peers and PLN. Renee, you said it was the Edu Gladiators. Is that right?
Guardians.
Edu Guardians. I would say that you need that group of people that you trust who are going to give you really good feedback and really specific feedback, right? Not just, oh, that looks good or that doesn't look good. What do I need to do to it? And then lastly, we've hit on this, all of us, effective communication. Communicate what you know. Share your core educational beliefs and also share your continued learning, because we know you're always learning. Just start with that. If you don't know where to start, I know it's April and you're probably having to pull together all of your PD into one collection to share with your administration so that you can validate and show that you have still been learning throughout the year. That is where I would start. That's just a really easy thing to share.
Yeah, share those batches that you get for getting certified and stuff. I have a whole page of them. I keep them like just on a Canva page, but share those, share your certificates, anything that you get from your professional development, the one that you get from today. Share those as part of your PD, because it'll come in handy when your administrator is looking at it, or when you go back in for, I know in Georgia, we have to have certain number of hours for recertification. So that when they look at it for that.
Or if you're Team Chaos, like Tisha Poncio, and you have curated a ton of certificates, but you aren't actually sure where they all are because they're never in the same place. You see, what I started doing was taking photos of those certificates if they came on paper, and I uploaded them to Wakelet and curated them all together so that when I was sharing with my administrators, I wasn't panicking.
I love that.
Yeah, just simple things. Anything else? Did you guys see anything in the chat that we want to address? I know there's so much conversation here. I just couldn't keep up.
I would say, like, if you're trying to look for somebody to help you create like your own style board or anything like that. There might be somebody in your building, maybe your art teacher. If you have a communications manager in your building, a PR person, maybe go to them. Ask another teacher that usually has her room on point with colors and stuff like that. That could be somebody that might be good at helping you design a style board, but you don't have to do it alone. Even reach out to one of us. I can give you my opinion. I'm really good at picking out colors and matching colors. So I'm happy. I'm sure Katie's happy to help as well. But just, reach out to those people in your building that you like their color scheme or you like the way they organize things, and ask them questions. Have them look at your portfolio. Have your principal look at your portfolio and see if it makes sense to them or what they think of it. I know my principal's looked at mine several times, and I've asked her questions about different things as I move on to my next role. So just don't be afraid to ask for help.
I think that's it. I think that's really it. Stay connected. Like I will tell you, and you all, everybody says this, Tisha, you're so busy all the time. I am, but I would love to see your portfolio, so you can tag me on Twitter. I think it's a really great idea to share it out. Because what it does is it makes you really think through what you're sharing, right? And then you're hitting those ISTE standards, you're modeling for your students. It becomes digital citizenship, digital literacy. Like, I could go on and on. I saw somebody in the chat earlier say that they had the paper portfolio. And I remember that. I had that. I was going into, me too.
The paper in the little sleeves.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know what's interesting about that is it's much harder to update that now than it is with all of the digital tools. Wakelet is great because a lot of you were saying in the chat, you can put anything in there, a PDF, an image, a link, a news article, a webinar. It could be anything that you have. Do not be afraid of making mistakes. You're right. This is the truth. Do you see Katie's message up there? Make mistakes.
I had one more question. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Address. Hey Ruth. So the way I add it to my resume, my portfolio for prospective employers, is I have it as a bit.ly on the side underneath skills, and I also have a QR code underneath that. That does the same thing.
You know what, Ruth? Let's show her. Do you guys want to show her? Give me a second. Give me just a second. Ruth, there's this really cool thing. Okay, Ruth. And I want to show it to you. Ruth didn't know she was going to be the star of the show today. So right here's my portfolio, my profile, my Wakelet profile. And I have a share button right here. Now, Renee's saying you can copy this link. You can copy this link and you can put it on your Facebook profile, your Twitter profile, or X, your LinkedIn profile. I put mine on my LinkedIn profile, but I want to show you this really nifty thing here. You can grab that QR code from your profile. I've done this multiple times. You can save the image or copy the image, and you can put that on your actual resume. So if you created one in Microsoft Word or Canva or whatever tool you're using, you can put that QR code, just paste it on that document, and then they can scan that. I think there's a lot of power in that, because did you know that, and this is true, I don't know if any of you have been on job hiring committees, but the amount of time that people are looking at resumes is like 3 to 5 seconds. And so if you have not made an impression in 3 to 5 seconds, they're probably not diving deeper. Whereas if you are giving them this professional portfolio, just like Katie shared, like you have all this information, so you can visually see there's a lot going on with this person. And then you're clicking on the collection to see Katie running a webinar, or Renee, has all of your community social media stuff in there. I mean, you can see it. So I think that is a really great way to do that. So even if you were to just use Word, because I know some people are comfortable with that. I know a lot of educators still want to have their Microsoft Word resume, and that's okay. But think about if you could put that QR code on there, right?
Yeah.
Last comments, advice, jokes. What do you have before we end our time together?
I was just going to say, along with the QR code, I did, we can use the Wakelet link, but I made it a bit.ly so it's easy to remember. It just is R Dawson CV, and then they can just type that in really quickly if they don't want to use the QR code. So something short and sweet is helpful too. But whatever fits your style.
Because there is a way, not the way. Katie?
Yeah, I have two things to close with. That QR code can also be great on a cell phone screen when you go to conferences to easily share it with other people. And then my last tip would be to be unabashedly yourself. It was when I first really started sharing about my experience with cystic fibrosis and my experience as a disabled child in classrooms and how that influenced what I do now that I really was like pushed forward and given a lot of opportunities. So don't be afraid to share what may seem like the scariest parts of yourselves in your portfolio because they really are your superpowers and the things that make you the most unique. And so just don't shy away from that would be my closing tip.
That's a great closing tip. I think with all three of us and with all of the examples, you can see that. And it is scary to put yourself out there, but I will tell you that it is going to bring you some of the coolest, most knowledgeable people into your PLN. And I did the exact same thing. Once you get past that fear, you start realizing that there are so many people out there, and you're right, doing it their way, which may not be my way, but all the ways are working for what we want it to. So you guys have been incredible. This has been one of my favorite webinars because obviously it is one of my favorite topics to talk about. I have put the certificate link in the chat. I have put the resources in the chat. You have all of the resources from both Katie and Renee. You have the graphic that I just shared with you, along with some research articles if you want to do a deep dive. So many wonderful comments in the session before leaving today. You guys were amazing. I hope everybody that's watching really enjoyed this webinar. Be sure to share this webinar. It is being recorded. And so any of your friends or colleagues or even you can go back and rewatch this session with Katie and Renee. Thank you all so much. Be sure to follow Wakelet on all social media platforms and follow Katie. She has put her handle there at KDF, and Renee Dawson, APS. ITS Dawson.
You all can't figure it out.
I know. Thank you all so much. Katie and Renee, it has been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you again so much for taking time to share with us. And we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.